All right. I'd just like to start off with thanking Farming Smarter for inviting us here today to speak on behalf of the Alberta Wheat Commission. And just wanted to share something with you that I read this morning, something that Leonardo DiCaprio um, said about Alberta. He said when he came to shoot his latest film in Alberta, he witnessed climate change on firsthand. And from a direct quote for him, we would come and there would be 8 feet of snow, and then all of a sudden a warm gust of wind would come. so, so just, I guess, put some things into perspective. So today I'm here to talk to you about some of the initiatives that the Alberta Wheat Commission has and we're working on. One of our big things we're working on right now is the PDQ, info.ca. It's our price transparency website that we've been developing here over the past year. Talk to you a little bit about transportation and what we're doing there, and then a couple of things including new crop missions that are ongoing right now. And yeah, so I guess I'll get into it here. So just to give some people a background on the Alberta Wheat Commission, it's a producer-funded organization. 70 cents per ton goes to the organization, and it's a farmer-directed organization, so we have director representation from 5 regions across Alberta, and our goal is to increase the long-term profitability for producers in Alberta. So we have 2 major focuses at the Alberta Wheat Commission. First is research and development. So we spend annually about $1.7 million on research investments, and in market development we do just over $800,000 annually. So to get into our price transparency, what is price transparency? I've come up with a definition that I think describes what price transparency is. Price information that is timely, accurate, easy access, easy to compare, and easy to understand. So if I'm thinking of something that's price transparent, I'm thinking of something like along the lines of pricing a hotel room, where you type into Google, I want a hotel room for Lethbridge. It comes up, gives you all the options right away. You can compare your room and the prices for your room, the stars of the hotel, and all those other information that you're trying to look at as far as booking a hotel room. So to me, a very good example of a transparent market is when you're booking a hotel room. So if we're looking at grain marketing, since I guess the wheat board went away, we've been looking at options on how to improve some of the price transparency gaps. And I guess some things we're trying to figure out is, okay, with price transparent information, we want to have it so you can have better decision making on your farms. So if you have historical information, you can see what the price averages have been in the past, and you can see deferred prices out into the future. This should allow you to make better decisions when you're planning on what to grow on as far as crops on your farms. It's also important for market analysis when they're trying to figure out what the market trends are and where it should be going forward. And price transparent information can also be used for crop insurance or price support benchmarks. So if AFSC wants to use pricing information, I believe now they do an average for a basis calculation and the average for a futures, and that's the price that you get. But if you have a little bit more price transparent information, it should give you a better long-term average. And then as well, if you have transparent information, it should lower your search costs. So it should be very easy to find, easy to access, and should save you time. So over the past almost a year now, we've been working on a project. It's called Price and Data Quotes, or PDQinfo.ca. So it's an agri-risk funded project by the federal government, and AWC and FarmCo have been developing it. AWC has been headlining this, and FarmCo has been the consultants that we've had hired on for this project. So PDQ, we believe it provides timely, accurate, average regional cash price bids to producers. So we're collecting currently from most of the major grain handlers. After closing each day, we'll be collecting their daily bids and posting it on the PDQ website as an average for a region, for 9 regions across Western Canada. So this will be providing a nice benchmark. Right now, features include deferred prices up to 12 months out, average grade and protein spreads. Average grade and protein spreads aren't updated nearly as often, but we're working on that going forward. And a map that shows all the delivery points across Western Canada. So you can go and look at each individual point, which elevator you be going to, and figure out which region it is in, and then be able to go and check out your average regional price. So lately, or I guess our latest update is we've got an average basis level in for CWS, CPS, and canola, and this is a spot and deferred basis levels across Western Canada in our 9 regions. So I guess for a little bit of shameless advertisement here, I'd like everyone to pull out their phones right now, if you have them on you, and type into your web browser pdqinfo.ca, and if you haven't already signed up, please sign up. I guess if you do one thing today during my presentation or get one thing out of it, I'd like you to sign on to the pdqinfo.ca website. So another initiative that the Alberta Wheat Commission is involved in is the Ag Transport Coalition. It's made up of agriculture organizations across Canada, including Pulse, Canola, Western Grain Elevators Association, Inland Terminal Association, as well as the provincial provinces. And what it does, what it was developed for, is because of in 13-14 we had a massive grain backlog, and we need to have the railroads more accountable for some of the issues that we were seeing. So the Ag Transport Coalition reports on weekly rail car performance indicators, which includes things like car supply by corridor, timeliness of delivery, loaded dwell time, port terminal out time as well, trying to keep them on track. So this is a couple examples. This is the latest information that we've got from the Ag Transport Coalition. So if we're looking at CN, right now they're delivering about 86% of the cars in their current want week, which is leaving about 6 trains behind each week. And CP is a little bit less. They're about 81%, and it's about just over 7 trains behind. But if you look at going to Vancouver, which is probably most relevant for Alberta producers, they're doing a lot better than the average across Western Canada. So 89% CN going to Vancouver and 91% CP going to Vancouver. Thunder Bay is a little bit, it'd be more Manitoba, Eastern Saskatchewan, a little bit less behind, and all other corridors. This would be going down into the U.S., Mexico, mills in New York, across into Montreal, into areas like that. And these are typically slower transit time destinations, so they're not as willing to give cars into these destinations. So as you can see, the numbers tell that story as well. So another recent thing that Alberta Wheat Commission's been involved in is a 4P investment along with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, Cantera Seeds, and us. It's the first of its kind. So what 4P is, it's a producer-private-public partnership. And we've invested, along with Cantera Seeds and AFC, $3.4 million over 5 years to develop new CPS varieties. And to headline the breeding program on that, Dr. Harpinder from Lethbridge here is involved with that. So this is investment into the Lethbridge research facility, and we're quite happy to be involved with it. So what does each party bring to the table into this investment? So Cantera Seeds, they have additional technical and field testing capacity for CPS for the Lethbridge Research Center. They have first-rate research facilities. They're also a partner with globally with Lima Grain. They're a massive company in Europe, and So they bring that to the table as well, and what they get out of it is they get first right of refusal on a stream of CPS varieties going through the program. So if we look at what the AAFC has to offer, they have a long-standing history and expertise in wheat breeding when they bring Dr. Harpinder to the table. So that's something we're excited to get moving on with them. And so the Alberta Wheat Commission, we have the producer perspective, so we're quite involved with the variety development going forward, and we want to bring varieties that are good for our producers here in Alberta. And from this, we'll get royalties that'll go back into the breeding program here. So you may be asking why CPS. CWRS has kind of been the go-to here for the last many years. So as long as I think everyone's known here. So right now, about 700,000 acres of CPS is being grown in Alberta. So if you look at it on a Canada scale, 80% of the CPS acres are being grown in Alberta. Canada, our biggest issue right now is on an export market is we don't have a reliable supply for our customers. So if we're shipping something down to Peru, they can maybe get a couple of boatloads of CPS or some cargo holds of CPS as they're purchasing CWRS. And it's just not consistent for them to change their milling program over to. So that's one of the challenges we're facing right now, and so we're trying to focus on how we can be a more reliable supply to some of our CPS customers. From what we hear, they quite like it, and they'd be interested in more of it. So we're quite interested in trying to develop that. So what we have going on right now is Alberta Wheat Commission, along with Cereals Canada, has developed a CPS marketing agenda, and so Cereals Canada has all of the supply chain involved within their membership, so they have all the exporters involved, and they can actually bring some of this CPS marketing to fruition. And we also have CIGI, the Canadian International Grains Institute. They have all the technical expertise, so if we want to go and advertise our milling qualities to some of these customers, CIGI would be able to help out with that. So from what we've seen, CPS is currently the fastest growing market in the world and available market. So where we're seeing this market potential is in South America and Southeast Asia, where they're using for products like lower protein products like flatbreads, more conducive for noodle production and cracker production, things like that. So currently right now, there are a lot of CPS going into feed and ethanol. We are shipping some export. We'd like to see more export into that higher premium food market. So as I mentioned, we have started an initial path of the CPS marketing program. So I guess the next thing that we had on the go this fall is building the Canadian wheat brand. So we have new crop missions every fall where we go out and advertise the new crop. This is involvement with Cereals Canada, CIGI, and the Canadian Grain Commission. And this summer we had Cereals Canada and CIGI had a report done by the LMC International, and they wanted to look at what markets we should be targeting as far as what potential growth and which ones we should be continuing on to build relationships with, and what defines Canadian wheat. So if we look at what defines Canadian wheat, we see as superior protein. So I know I just talked about a lower protein wheat with CPS, but it doesn't mean we should stop anything with what we have going on with CWRS. It's been our bread and butter for a long time, and but we do see additional market access with CPS. So CWS will continue on those markets, but we do see potential with CPS going forward. Also, another thing with what defines Canadian wheat is consistency between shipments. Our customers are quite satisfied. They're able to purchase shipments based on incremental loading, where you can get testing quite a lot more frequently, composite loading, if you're willing to take the risk on your overall vessel quality, or you can, if you're purchasing trains into the U.S., you can specify car specifications in order to keep that consistent quality that you're looking for as a customer. Canada has the logistics and ability to do that for its customers, so that's one positive. And the cleanliness of our grain. We have cleaning facilities in most of our primary elevators across Western Canada, and as well as a lot of our port terminals as well have cleaning capabilities. So customers around the world are quite happy with our cleanliness. If they're able to save money at their mills not having to clean, it's one thing that's positive for them. And milling performance, CWS is quite happy. I had a chance to go on one of the new crop missions. I'll get into that later, but as far as Canadian wheat, they see it as almost a designer wheat. They see it as very high quality, and they're willing to pay for a premium for that. So to talk about the new crop missions, this year we had 4 missions. One that's ongoing right now, we're going Middle East, Northern Africa, and West Africa. So this is also an emerging market. Algeria is a great big U.S. market right now. Canada wants to get more involved there. Morocco, UAE, the Ivory Coast, and Ghana. So that's captures MENA and West Africa. Asia, we're looking Japan, South Korea, China, Philippines, Indonesia, Singapore, and Bangladesh. And Europe, we visited this past year the UK and Italy as well. The mission that I had a chance to go on was Central America and South America, which we visited at Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, and Mexico. So why are we going there? These are big customers of ours. So if we're looking at Europe, the 1.4 million tons of durbs went to Europe last year, 600,000 tons of wheat. Central and South America, almost 4 million tons of wheat went there last year, 200,000 tons of durum. CWS, CPS, and Quad are their major interests right now. Middle Eastern, Northern Africa, 1.4 million tons of durum, over 500,000 tons of wheat. And as far as Asia, they do some durum and 6 million tons of wheat as well. So Asia also has a market potential for CWS, CPS, and durum as well. So what is our Team Canada approach going there? We want to develop new and existing markets by showcasing the new crop. So we're going over there with Canadian Grain Commission, SIGI, and they're going to our customers and showing them the value of our new crop. So they have presentations on the baking qualities, the quality parameters on our new crop from the sample programs that they have, and just real information overload for a day, and trying to explain what the advantage of the Canadian new crop is. And we're also there to garner market intelligence. So what are we doing right as far as the Canadian industry, and what are we doing wrong? So if there's issues that we need to work on going forward, we want to know about them, and we're trying to gather feedback for this. So as I mentioned already, traditional markets are markets like Japan, Indonesia, Italy, Mexico, and we're seeing a great market potential in South America, West Africa, and Southeast Asia. These are where the populations of the world are really booming, and we see potential for our Canadian wheat. So this past year, and I guess in past crop missions, what have we learned, or what did we learn? So gluten strength has come up in the past. The Canadian Grain Commission took it upon themselves this past year with industry consultation to try and solve part of this issue. They did move some varieties that have been seen as having lower gluten strength. They have moved those out of the CWS and CPS classes and reclassified them. And so that's one of the things. When I was in South America this past year, they had mentioned that gluten strength had been an issue that they're trying to deal with. They had to bring in other wheats from around the world, so we were losing market share. And if it's an issue, they can use it as a negotiation tactic as well. So if they don't want to pay as much because they're having issues with gluten strength in Canada, they might be trying to tell our exporters that this is an issue and try and pay less for our wheat. So we just wanted to, I guess the Canadian Grain Commission, along with the industry, wanted to address that issue, and I think they're here today and they might comment on that. I'm not sure, but and so this year we're hearing more and more about glyphosate residue. It's depending on. It really depends on the harvest that you have as far as if you're going to have glyphosate. If you're trying to dry down your crop a little bit sooner, you're going to be spraying more, using more glyphosate to try and harvest your crop quicker to save some of your quality. So some of the countries are bringing this up as an issue. I'm not completely sold that it's an issue yet. I think there could still be room for it being a negotiation tactic. And there's differences in testing. We're testing tolerances within Canada. They're going out fine, and but they're raising issues as the boats are arriving in their harbors. So that's one thing that we're going to need to address. We need to have more research into this area and to see where the potential issues are arising. And then mycotoxins. You might have heard about mycotoxins or maybe not, but one of the issues right now is when you do have a wet harvest, you have a mycotoxin called ochratoxin A, and it develops as there's high moisture in your bin or throughout the supply chain. So as far as another issue that's being brought up, mostly in Asia and in Europe, mycotoxin, it is harmful to human health, and they I guess want us to address this issue, but right now as well, we don't have information on where this issue is developing. You're loading rail cars in Saskatchewan or Alberta when it's minus 30 degrees Celsius, and loading in Vancouver when it's could be 3 to 5 degrees Celsius, and it's going over into Southeast Asia where it could be 33 degrees Celsius. So there's all these drastic temperature changes that could make your moisture come out of your grain and start developing these mycotoxin issues that we're seeing. So we need to better understand where these issues are developing. So that's what I had for you guys today. If there's any questions or anything that you'd like for me to answer.
Yeah, I just was interested in your comment at the end there about glyphosate residue. Is there any of those guys willing to pay a premium if there's no glyphosate residue in the grain?
I guess as far as a premium, when it's unless you're going to IP or ship in a container, I don't think that they would be willing to pay a premium. If they're looking for wheat without glyphosate residue, the U.S. has typically a drier harvest, or Australia, so they might be more willing to go there if they're looking to get a full boatload without glyphosate residue.